So I figured out my gas and brake pedal debacle. I'm gonna use a bolt, hold the little tabs in place, put it right about there. That would be the throttle or gas pedal. And I got the brake pedal over there too. I'm gonna take a little time on that to try to figure out how I want to put it, because where I put the brake pedal is also going to determine the master cylinder, which is sitting right there. But I think what I'm going to do now, since I pretty much like the location of my gas pedal, I want to take and tag it in place and see how it looks. Alright, I got both the brake and gas pedal in place. Kind of started on the throttle cable. I mean, it's The throttle does move, but it's not really working all the way. I do have the adjuster maxed out, but gonna need to revise something. I kind of want this cable to float some, that way it's not binding up on anything or it doesn't snap, but I definitely got to revisit this. Definitely gonna have to. Going on the back here, I have a hose clamp holding the throttle cable in place right underneath the axle. I don't really want to use zip ties because you have to keep cutting them and putting them back on, so hose clamp holds that nice in place. It's not touching the air filter or breather. Comes up in the factory spot, and I always screw up on these every time I cut these cables. The ends fray, so I took a little like an electrical eyelet connector, crushed the hell out of it in my bench vise, and tightened down on that screw. It does move with no issue, so if it works, I'm just gonna leave it be. On the brake side of things, I did get it in place. I gotta figure out how to mount the master cylinder on here so it's not like way too high or way too low. It's straight on. That way there's nothing wrong with the plunger and everything works just fine. So let me figure out a mount for that. Excuse me. And get everything all situated with the brakes. So it's been over a week since I last touched the go-kart. I think last time I was working on the throttle cable, and then my boss called and we talked for a bit. I think that's what I was working on last, and I think I gave up on it because I don't know how exactly I want to mount it. So we're going to draw our attention to the brake system. So this is still the same piece of angle iron I used on the seat. So I'm going to cut this at 8" just so it can sit between the two little cross members I made. Then after I know where it's going to sit, I'm going to drill 2 holes to mount the actual master to it. Well, I'll just cut out where I have my mark here, drill 2 holes, and get that all finished up. Ta-da! Brake pedal's actually in place. I just have a tack weld because I don't want to weld next to this steering rack, and I want to take the pedal off so I can weld this all the way, but it is pretty strong. And I did almost max out the adjuster, but the brake does work. All I really gotta do is I realize I put this pedal on a little crooked. All I gotta do is bust the tack weld off, move the pedal up, and it should be okay. Should be. I don't want to move it down because it would make it awkward to hit the brake pedal. Maybe I should tighten that bolt too, but after I adjust the pedal. Alright, I had a little fun with the die grinder. And made some bigger ovular holes, so when I angle the seat, it's not going to bind or anything. It's not going to stay one spot because it needs to have a little bit of upward angle for it to feel good. And you can't drill an oval hole, so Use a die grinder with a burr bit. Ground the holes some. Made it a little bigger. And that should do it. So let's get the seat put in. Alrighty. Seat is bolted in place. Nice and strong. Brake pedals mounted really strong. Gas pedal works. Steering wheel's not center, but it does drive straight. So, got the back end in place, new brakes, new axle, new everything. Got a brand new front end up front, brand new steering, used seat. Let's take this thing for a test drive. Let it rip. Alright, I did take this for a test drive. Wasn't exactly pleasant. Things didn't turn out right. I did do the front alignment on it, try to help it out some. Wheels are now straight, it's got a good alignment on it, but still doesn't handle right. You can turn the wheel and it'll just shove, which is what I was expecting because for how long this frame is, and I have a solid rear axle, it ain't gonna steer. But when I turn was to the right, it'll steer, but when I turn to the left, it won't. It does, it kinda returns the center almost. You can see in here. It's not pretty good. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next with this thing. The back end's mostly fine. It's a little finicky at times. With the 48 tooth sprocket, it does have a hard time getting up and going. And I didn't disable the governor. Haven't tried this engine out stock, so I don't know how it works, anything like that. I don't know. But it does roll. It rolls nice and smooth. And when it does straighten itself out, it'll go straight, which is a good thing. It means this axle's straight and I got the front wheels straight. But it's just not right. But at least we did get this thing rolling. We got it going. I mean, I should have kept the engine stock to see what it did before I modified it, but didn't exactly do that. I jumped the gun. Don't get me wrong, I love this project. It turned out a lot better than what I thought it would be, but I don't think the front end is up to par. How I talked about, oh, it's not going to travel that much. I'm not worried about travel. The way the springs are positioned, the coilovers, they do work. It doesn't take much to get them to flex, which is great. But it's just when you go to turn, the wheel literally wants to snap. Like, watch for your thumbs, you know? It's just something doesn't really exactly feel right in this. So I think what I'm going to end up doing, and I'm thinking about it now, I may get rid of the independent front suspension and just make it solid, and then play around with how I want my caster, my camber, and how I want my toe. set on the front end, because it's not exactly working out good. It looks good, but it just doesn't exactly handle right. It doesn't exactly want to go yet because I didn't really dig into the engine, and I really do think I got too high of a gear. I may order a new one, but I have to wait on it too because gotta watch funds, got some bills coming up to pay. So I'm gonna put this on the back burner until I figure out what I'm going to do with it exactly. But everything looks great on it. It's just how it's executed, it's not perfect. The stance looks good. The skinny tires up front with the fat tires in the back looks fantastic. It's just the front end is just all over the place. So I'm gonna take a break from the WE2 so I can figure out what I'm gonna do with it. But I know once I do figure out what I'm gonna do next in my whole debacle, it will get all the finishing touches. It's gonna need braces going along the frame. Front end's definitely gonna need braced up if I want to continue using the front end that I have now. Do a couple more things with it. Floor is one thing I'm gonna need too. I want to find aluminum plate to use as a floor and side skins for this thing, just so it's somewhat lighter weight. I don't have all that steel up front. I will need to add steel up front, of course, for a skid plate, just in case I don't have a twig fly up or anything. So I don't know what I'm gonna do next. This will get completed, but not right now. I want to sit back and view my options of what I want to do next. I may go down the route of taking the shocks out completely and just make the front end stiff. Just have spots to put the steering knuckles in. I have a spot to keep the steering rack in place. I may just go that route just to make it solid, just so I don't have to worry about more stuff wearing out or breaking. The Heim joint idea does not work at all. There's a nut that's coming loose, and that's the reason why I stopped driving it, because it just keeps bagging itself off. I did find ball joints for this thing, but I'm probably not going to get them just yet. The steering feels great. Everything feels great on this thing. It's just how the front end's handling. It's not so good. It is under my length limit of 8 foot. Doesn't really exactly have a height limit just yet, but it's under 8 foot, which I'm happy about. It looks great, but yet again, it does need some work. So I'm gonna leave the video off here. Next time you guys see me, hopefully we'll be starting the new project. I'm not gonna give any hints, but it's red. The color of it is red. That's all I'm gonna say. So I hope you guys like the project. I've had a lot of bad luck setting up a front suspension. You guys know I went back to readjust everything for it, make new control arms. Still ain't right. So, not calling it a fail because it's a hell of a lot better than what I made before, but it's not exactly a win because it just doesn't handle right. So next time you see this thing, I will have an idea of what I'm going to do. I'm going to show that on camera because, you know, it's a project, still in the works. A little setback, but should get better. It should. So hopefully if you like this video, please, down below, hit that like button. Subscribe as well because this thing is not done yet. Still got a lot more doing it before this thing can be tearing up the streets. If you have any comments, like say, oh, I told you so about this, say down below. I mean, I'm open to hear all your ideas, but right now, I'm gonna put this on the back burner. It'll sit in my garage until it needs to move, and it'll be sitting outside for a while, but I will take the motor off it. And probably other things too, but that said, I'll see you guys next time. At least the brakes work.